Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Missing Wolves post-game podcast live stream thing. This is a not quite midnight edition, and also a Elon Musk needs to fix Twitter's upload edition, because midway through posting some of Rudy Gobert's kind of scathing post-game remarks, none of the videos worked. So, that's just going to have to wait, I guess. But I'm your host, Andrew Dukowitz, who is usually complaining at the beginning of these episodes. And I have Benny Hughes from Canis Hoopus back on the show. How's it going, Benny?
I'm doing all right, man. No, I'm happy to fill in tonight. Like I told you, I was a fan of the crowd this evening, so got a little bit of a different perspective. So if I'm not as pointed and I don't have my notes as much, that's the reason why. So yeah.
Well, I kind of want to just start right off the get-go of just we can hash out the game, I guess, a little bit. Pelicans win 119-115. Pretty typical Wolves loss to a weird team like this. Pelicans outscore them by 9 in the fourth, outscore them by 7 in the third. Wolves had an 18-point lead, evaporated. Saddiq Bey scores 30, Zion with 29, Trey Murphy with a random 26. This kind of hit all of the notes for one of these weird Wolves losses, didn't it, Benny?
Yeah, very much so. I don't know. It's just so interesting to watch this team on a nightly basis, because you want to somewhat convince yourself that it happens to everybody, and it does. But at the same time, like, you have to hold them accountable, because this is like unacceptable, and it feels like it's happened a lot over the course of the season. And if they switch the outcome of a couple of these games, like they could be in a very different position in terms of the West standings at this point. So yeah.
Well, and you mention accountability. Many sports fan mentions consistent theme of inconsistent effort. Rudy finally kind of said what I think a lot of fans have been thinking for a while, of just like, this isn't going to work. I'm paraphrasing. I have some quotes up on Twitter already, but effectively just said, like, kind of called out the coaching staff as, like, if we can't hold ourselves accountable, like, someone needs to hold us accountable. And if that means benching me, bench me. If that means benching our stars, like, we can't win with our stars if they're not playing effort. Like, and I think people can read between the lines of, like, Ant finishes with 35 and he's a -12. And I think this was one of his worst defensive performances of the year, at least watching it and not watching anything back yet. How needed was that? Just someone saying that quiet part out loud of just like, hey, our leaders, our stars need to be locked in.
Yeah, that pretty much just like sums it up right there, right? Like, it can only happen so many times before I feel like that the media gets hold of it. They can talk about, like, having these players only meetings and talking internally about it, but at some point it is helpful to have it out in the open for everybody to hear and be like, all right, now everybody is going to be on high alert for this kind of thing. And like what you're talking about, it's like the inconsistent effort, the inconsistent defense. I just know that being there live, like, and got burned a few times, and we know he's a better defender than that, and he's brought it to a different level. And when he does, it's pretty clear the correlation with the outcome of the game. And so yeah, they do need to work harder. They do need to be better. So yeah.
And it's just like, I think, again, Finch, after all of these losses, comes out and kind of calls out the energy and attention to detail and stuff. Ant has, like, called it out pretty frequently of, like, yeah, we just didn't have it tonight. A lot of times the night of the game, he'll be like, yeah, I just missed shots. But then after a film session, it'll be more of like a, yeah, I gotta bring it a little bit more. But like, when Rudy, your kind of anchor of your defense, is coming out here and just saying, like, this is not going to work, guys, I think that goes a long way to hopefully changing something. Pack mentality mentions Ant and Julius were just trolling on defense. Jaden didn't want to play. I'm 5 fouls. He was kind of unable to really impact the game. It is just kind of confounding of, like, I think a lot of times you equate energy issues to a young team, but like Ant's in his 6th year, Julius is 30, like Jaden's in his 6th year, Nas is in his 7th, Dante's a vet. Like they don't really have young people on this team. So I guess my rambling question and lead into it is just like, what do you think it is with this team? Like what's kind of the denominator that you think it could be?
Yeah, that is an awesome question. I mean, I don't know. That is the question. I feel like that we've been trying to quarrel with for probably a couple years now, and I do think that it's probably in the aggregate better than like we think on any given night. It's very easy to get swept up in that, but at the same time, like we keep having this conversation, so obviously there is something there. It is interesting when you talk about like Ant and just him being like, all right, usually, right after the game, he's not as thoughtful about it, maybe necessarily. I don't know if that's maybe the right term to put it in, but
no, I think
usually
that's a great way to say it.
Yeah. So like it usually takes him a couple days to really think about it, let it sink in. And then to his credit, I will say that usually it does turn around. And that's what makes this team maddening, but also impressive in a way where it's like they can lose these types of games and then all of a sudden they'll come back the next game and beat OKC by 20. Like both things can be true where they do play up into their competition, but it's just fascinating where it's like, yeah, they're like in the grand scheme of things, Ant is still young, but it's also like it's his 6th year in the league or 5th year in the league. 5th, 6th?
6th year. It's all of a sudden he is in his 6th season.
Unreal. Yeah. It felt weird saying it, but it is true where it's like he has been in the league long enough where you think that these things can and should be ironed out by now. And again, of course, it made a 2-game season. This stuff like this happens, but at the same time, again, we keep having the same conversation, and it feels like that it has happened a lot. And even in the wins against these maybe sub 500, subpar teams, you still kind of have that feeling of like, okay, but it could have been a lot better and a lot less stressful. So,
yeah, I just pulled up Rudy's comments, so I'm just going to read a couple of them.
Please.
At the halftime break, I believe it was Jace asked after the game of just, where did you see things fall off after being up 18? Rudy says, effort. We played the right way in the first half for the most part. We played hard and we got up 18, came out in the third and we dropped back. We didn't contest shots, just no effort. We've seen that many, many times this year, the last few years since I've been here. We always know it's coming. When it comes, there's no sense of urgency and no accountability. So I think at some point, if the players don't have accountability, someone has to have accountability for the players. Like that's a pretty, I don't know how much more clear you can make that one. Asked if it's harder to kind of find that effort consistently at the end of the season, because, if you're not bringing it every game of the regular season, like what does that mean? And Rudy goes, it means we're not inspired. It means we don't take things seriously. And once again, these games matter. These games impact where we're going to finish the season, who we're going to face in the playoffs, kind of goes on that. But he gets back to it at some point and is like, it's crazy that we're just not able to focus on that, meaning Memphis. Obviously, when we focus on it, offense comes easy. I mean, offense is just sharing the ball, which we don't do very well, but I'll accept that. The difference is straight effort, and it's going to be on everyone. No one should get a pass for not playing defense, Like, again, that is as pointed as you can like put that out there. And then Dane kind of asked a follow-up of just like, who do you mean the accountability needs to come from? And he said Rudy goes, it should start with ourselves, but it seems like we don't have that. So I think at some point it has to come from the coaches. It's not an easy position for a coach to take guys out of the game. It's not something that you want to do, but I think if players don't show any effort at some point, no matter how talented we are as a team, if you don't have that, you just can't be a winning team. It starts with me. If I'm not showing effort, bench me, take me out of the game. Everybody else will follow. Our best players, leaders, if we don't show effort, it doesn't matter if you score 50, we're not going to win. Like that is as clear cut and pointed, I think, that anyone on this team has put it, and he is 100% right. I mean, what's kind of your reaction to that type of like directness from Rudy, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm hard pressed to think of a time he's been that pointed
Yeah.
in like a post game interview, and it maybe that just goes to show like he feels comfortable now calling out his teammates like that, which is cool. Just in general, because he is a guy that generally speaking brings it every single night, no matter if it's a great team or if it's a really bad team. And obviously, there's better or worse matchups for him, and that's a whole different conversation. But for in terms of effort, he is there every single night. And I almost think like I've been thinking about it. It's like when you think of effort, it's almost easier to attribute effort to a guard because you can see
Yeah.
it out there of like running around like on the perimeter, like really contesting shots, doing this, doing that, and you don't see effort equated as much to big men or like forwards or centers. But I mean, if you watch Rudy night in and night out as we have for the past 3 years, I mean, that's the guy that should be the golden example. You know what I'm trying to say. The top example of someone that brings it every single night in terms of what he does out there on the floor. So,
And I would be willing to guarantee my credentials that Rudy has said this in private multiple times before going out to the media and saying it, because Rudy is not like a guy that airs that stuff. I mean, he is I'm hard pressed to find like a more professional like guy than Rudy. Like he's always very like thoughtful and inspiring and stuff like that. But like I think you're 100% right. Like he is the dude that every night is getting hit in the face, trying to get rebounds. He doesn't really get rewarded on offense and is bringing it. And I think at a certain point in time, like tonight, where Julius is, or not Julius, when Zion is just getting straight line drives at you, like what's Rudy supposed to do? Like Finch after the game kind of called out Rudy for his rim defense, but it's like Zion's 280 pounds coming at you full speed because no one's hedging him. Like what is Rudy supposed to do?
yeah, slow him down a little, man. Do something, you know. Like and I even had it written down where there was times in the first half where I thought Julius did do a decent job of like slowing him down, but then that just went away. You know, especially last few minutes of the second quarter, like that was the best defensive stretch that they had all game fairly easily, but also just kind of like generally speaking of like, okay, Zion isn't getting straight line drives to the rim and he's going to finish that, you know, 90% of the time as he did tonight. And that just goes to show. And Zion kills the Wolves every time he them. Every time. I think that the Pelicans are probably the worst not good team matchup against the Wolves because of that. So even when they play the Pelicans, I'm always like have that reserved in the back of my mind of like, okay, Zion's probably going to go for 3 tonight, and he did. So
wasn't it last year when he played like the front end of 2 in a row and they like smoked the Wolves, so they benched him the second end because they were like, we can't, like, what are you guys doing? Like, this, like we got to bench Zion. He's going to go out and win us the game.
Yeah, it wasn't even like you know, oh, beat him by 10. No, the Wolves beat him by a lot. I do remember that where it's like Zion went off. Awesome, you know, again, great player, especially when he's healthy, but still, it's just like you got to do something, you know. If you slow him down even just a little bit, like Rudy is probably going to clean it up more often than not. So,
and I think that's, you know, Finch in these post-game press conferences talks so often about like the ball pressure and getting into guys off of screens, and it's like I think that's where it's such a frustrating spot for him to be because like you have to like Ant, Dante, Bones, like those guys have to get in on the screens because like if Rudy's playing a drop, you just can't let anybody in the NBA. There's not like bad guards anymore. Like if anyone gets a full head of steams, like they can finish pretty well. And Rudy has kind of this like deterrence where people like see him and pass out, but dudes like Zion aren't afraid of him. Like they are going to go at him. And it just puts like such a hard spot on the defense. And it does. It makes like, again, I'm being like an armchair psychologist, but like if I'm Rudy getting hit in the face every game, and then you have a game like this where Zion scores 29 on 11 of 13 shooting, and all of it's over you at the rim, like I would feel some sort of way of just like, guys, like help.
Well, and it's interesting because you talk about like help him, and honestly, it's not even like a sense of like you have to stop them before they get to me. It's more like work harder so that they do get to me in a less advantageous position. Because you're talking about like, I mean, think about how many times tonight Murphy off a pin screen or like a curl screen or something like that, and there was just like he had 5 feet of space to work with for either for a jumper or again, like you said, to get downhill. Same thing with Zion. It's like if you over pursue almost on those curls, on those pin downs to try to like either reject the pass or just like are on their hip and force them to like drive not with a full head of steam to really like he's probably going to clean that up. So it's like if you work harder on the perimeter to the point of maybe you misstep and they do get a step on you to go to the rim, like Rudy's going to be there, but it's like you got to help them out front first before they get to the back line.
Exactly. And I think that's I if I had to bet, that's the conversation they're going to be having at practice tomorrow, and kind of the through lines that they're going to continue to talk about. It is just, I'm glad somebody kind of said it. You know what I mean? Like it's nice that somebody kind of aired that out, because I think everybody like in the media has been saying this type of stuff. Finch is very good at making sure he kind of falls on the sword and takes accountability, but like at some point, like it does have to be kind of put out there that like this team's stars just don't have that effort a lot of times. And it's not just, as Godfrey kind of mentions in the chat, it sounds like Rudy's talking about Ant. Like I think it's Ant, I think it's Julius, I think it's Nas. Like, I think Dante, Jaden, and Rudy are bringing it every night, and then it's the other 5 or 6 guys that just, whether it's taking the lead from the top guy and it trickles down or what have you, but it's nice that like somebody on the team said the quiet part out loud so that it can, at least we don't all feel crazy, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, oh they're just saying it because like they're just trying to play armchair psychologist and say it. You know what I mean? But it's so interesting. Like anytime you watch a Wolves game and you watch Ant out there, especially on defense, it's palpable. Like you can tell in the first 6 minutes, it's like, all right, he's ready to play defense tonight. And usually in those games, they kick butt. They go off. I always remember everyone else for saying like game 3 against OKC last year. They go down 2-0, I believe, and then he comes out first 6 minutes of the game and he is locked in defensively. He's being physical. He's creating havoc on that end of the floor. And I knew from like the first 6 minutes of the game they were going to kick ass that game. So, and I obviously, it is like a push and pull of like you can't necessarily accept or expect that every single night on back-to-backs on whatever for an 82 game season, but it would be nice to see that a little bit more because that is a gear that he does have. So,
and it's a gear that he has, and it's a gear that comes out against the good teams like consistently. Like when they're playing Boston and Jaylen Brown's on the other team, like he's locked in. When they're playing the Thunder, when they're playing the Nuggets, like that dude is elite on defense. And kind of Julius and Ant, like when it's against a team like the Pelicans tonight, I mean, you could feel it. I mean, you were in the arena watching it. Like as soon as they got up 18 and there was kind of the offensive rebounds and the turnovers, and like all of a sudden Trey Murphy's hitting threes, you could just feel it. Like, oh, this team just expected them to roll over, which no one does that anymore. It's a different NBA nowadays.
It is, and we've experienced that a few times this year. I see that many sports fans was talking about the cruise control they went on from the mid third to the mid fourth. Was here we go again. Well, it was fascinating to me too. It's just like experiencing it. Like even like for the first quarter and a half, like the game was close, pretty much within 5 points either way. But I know that I felt watching the game, like it did not feel like it did in the third and fourth quarter, even when those like point differentials were the same. It felt like, okay, we're still here. We're punching back. Yeah, Pelicans are hitting some shots. Maybe we got to work harder on defense. But the vibe in the first 18 minutes of the game compared to the last 18 minutes game, completely different. So
it is so interesting in the arena because I always reference, like, before I got into media, I've had season tickets since
yep.
before Jimmy Butler came here. And like there was such a long period of time with the Wolves when if they were down by anything going into the fourth quarter, it was just like the vibe in the arena was just like, well, we lost this one. Let's go home.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like there is this confidence that they're going to turn it on, but there's
Mm-hmm.
also this like underlying just like tension you can cut with a knife as everybody's just like, oh God, we're doing this again. Like, why do
Mm-hmm.
we keep doing this? And it's such a weird feeling in the arena when that stuff happens. It's just bizarre.
Yep. Yeah, I was present with the game with my dad. Very nice of him to join me for this one. I still had fun with my dad, of course, good time. But he is very much, scarred by the Minnesota sports thing, and he's always, on that wave. And like to a degree, it's understandable. I mean, when you
Mhm.
watch as many games as he has and as we have, you can feel it. You can tell. Absolutely.
I do want to get more into the Ayo Dosunmu and Julian Phillips trade stuff, but I'm going to throw us over to a break before we get into that. If people have any buyout guys you want to talk about, feel free to throw them in the chat as well. I think,
Mhm.
it's been widely reported that Mike will be back. I can say his name tag was off his locker today, so he is officially not on the team as of February 6th at 11:18 p.m., but widely reported that he's coming back. So they do have another kind of salary slot that they could use. So if anyone wants to talk buyouts, we can do that. If not, I'd love to get your thoughts on Ayo and just what that looks like. But first, ads. Well, hello. Thank you, Livestream Andrew. This is Ad Read Andrew. And today we have Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, the presenting sponsor for the Missing Links podcast. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling strives to inspire people to follow their ideas, working with respect and understanding to create a quality, tailored result. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, located in Blaine and serving in the North Metro area, is here to help you with your building and remodeling needs. I can say personally, thanks to Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, I have a beautiful deck in my backyard and countless projects that I started, they finished. Get started on your new deck or remodel today by calling Isaac at 763-710-5686. And we're back with another ad read. This time for Pence Homes, the presenting sponsor of Hitting the Hardwood Network. From the best tools and technology to transparency throughout the entire process, Nate Pence and the Pence Homes team is the top choice for buyers, sellers, and is proud to support you and your home ownership goals. Get started today by calling 612-308-1122 or by emailing info@pencehomes.com. Quick little footnote here. Pence Homes is still collecting food for the Minneapolis and surrounding suburbs area, just as there's still kind of some unrest going on in the cities. If you do want to make a donation, whether that's actual food or money, reach out to info@pencehomes.com. They are always looking for donations to kind of continue helping people out. They're also always looking for drivers and people that are willing to help out that way too. So info@Pence Homes, great way to get started. If you're not an email person, they do have social media, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, X, whatever it's called now. Feel free to shoot Nate Pence a DM and they will help you find a way to help. It's a good way to make sure that your money's going directly to people that need it. Benny, on a significantly less serious note, though, Ayo Dosunmu did get traded to the Wolves. He showed up today, and oh my goodness, has it been wholesome seeing all of the Bulls comments in my mentions of
Yeah.
just like, oh my, I I have been told he is the Bulls version of Nas Reed, and that
Wow.
is
All right.
the fact that we got him for Rob Lenny in 4 seconds. I mean, I just am still kind of stunned that Tim was able to pull that move off. What's kind of your reactions though?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I will say I looked through your Twitter today after you asked me to be on to make sure, I was with it and I watched all the videos of him. One, he just seems like an awesome dude. I mean, everyone asks like, "What's the first thing you're doing in Minneapolis?" He's like, "Get back to the community." Awesome, like super cool. So he seems like a cool guy. I probably will re-mention this at the end of the show, but I got kind of a deeper dive coming out tomorrow morning actually for Canis on him,
Yeah.
and just everything that I was looking up on him, just more as a basketball player, because obviously we're worried about that as well. Just seemed like just the absolute perfect, the perfect role for him to take up. So I'm extremely excited to see kind of what he brings, everything that he's about. If you're saying that he's the Nas Reed of the Bulls, I mean, again, even more homegrown than Nas Reed was since he's from
Yeah.
Chicago. But yeah, I mean, I remember back in his Illinois days, really, really fun player, and it was really fun kind of doing that deeper dive, kind of figuring out all the stuff that he can bring to the table. So yeah, excited to talk about that as well. And we can get deeper into all that stuff as well. So
Yeah, it kind of what I've learned through Chicago fans jumping into my tweets is that he coaches a AAU team in Chicago during the off season, which is dope. Super involved with like giving back in the Chicago community. Even did that when he was at Illinois. Like parents are super nice. Like he just seems like a really high character person. Which like again, that seems to be just Tim's MO is like pick out the guys that are going to be really good human beings. Kind of I asked him today about that and he was like, well, you don't want to like go to work with a bunch of jerks, which like, yeah, fair. I can't argue with that at all. What do you kind of see from him on the court though, that you think will blend in so well with this team?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like the first thing that pops when you look at the like just the straight statistics, like you Google his basketball reference page, is the 3-point shooting of this season, right? Like 45.1%, right? Eighth
Mm-hmm.
in the NBA, just behind Jaden McDaniels at sixth in the NBA. I don't know if that changed after tonight, but as of earlier today, that was the case. So I feel like that's the first thing that pops. Obviously, shooting farther away from the basket, that's going to flux a little bit more, and he hasn't been that much of a dead eye shooter, but obviously very cool to see. I think he was 42.5% from catch and shoot and
Yep.
like 64 in pull ups. Obviously, take that with a grain of salt because it was less than one a game that's taken, but just kind of showing the juice of that, especially because that's probably where he's going to be, is playing off the catch like that, doing a lot of catch and shoot stuff. Julius Randle spray out and Rudy Gobert in the middle of the floor on the 4-on-3 after Ant gets double teamed at the top. So I feel like that's the first thing that pops in the box score. The other thing that really excited me was his transition stuff. It
Yeah.
seems like that he's got the ball handling to do it and just take it. And I'm gonna, and I can either finish it myself or I'm just gonna ignite it for my teammates. And I feel like obviously the first person that pops into mind already on the Wolves is Jaden. With that regard, obviously he's awesome in transition. I feel like we know that by now. But other
Mm-hmm.
guys are kind of with that too. Dante likes to ignite it. Maybe not a play finisher as much. Nas likes to do it a lot, but you can always use another one of those guys, especially with his. I would say he's a better ball handler than Dante is. I don't think that's really a hot take, but just his ability to kind of just take and go and ignite it and do it himself. So those were kind of the two things that initially were like, all right, offensively, that's popping for me. That's what I really like to see. So.
Yeah, I kind of dug into it too, and I actually was doing a lot of compare and contrast things with Mike because I was like, okay, well,
Yeah.
if he's just going to kind of do what Mike does on offense, at least of just like, well, Mike's shooting 30% from the right corner, Ayo's shooting 55% from the right corner. He's shooting
Oh
like
my God, I don't even think I
46%
caught
from
that.
above the break. Like
Wow.
if you're going from a Mike who was, he will be back on this team, it sounds like, but probably not playing a whole lot. If you're going from like those percentages in those 18 minutes to, I mean, in some cases, like a 25% jump in like make percentage, like that's going to be huge for this. I mean, that's like 4 to 6 points a game that's just added off the
Mhm.
top. And then I completely agree with you. Like like the other thing I really kind of found charming about him is like 99.9%. Literally, he has only taken one shot this year from 3-point range that wasn't wide open or open, which
Yeah.
like talk about like the next action, move the ball on, continue like, Spurs beautiful basketball type of thing. Like this guy shoots it if he's open, and if he's not, he passes it, which is like
Mhm.
so refreshing when we've had like Nikhil, who kind of pulls his own number, Bones, who has
Yeah.
some hero moments. Like, I just think he's going to be, I mean, exactly what the Wolves needed. What do you think about him as like a playmaker, though? Because I guess my perception of him, not watching a lot of Bulls games,
Mhm.
I thought like his stats and just watching some stuff that he would be better than he is, but it does seem like
Mhm.
he does struggle at times with kind of the like actually running an offense side of the basketball.
Yeah, I kind of had him pegged as like a little like he's a fine initiator. I think he will be better as an initiator than Dante DiVincenzo, but I'm not like expecting him to break down a defender one on one and take it to the basket and score. Now, I will say that off the catch, it seemed like he had a lot of juice for that.
Yeah.
So again, kind of like Rudy gets the ball in the middle of the floor. We can all picture this, right? Rudy gets it, kicks it to the corner. He's attacking a closeout. He's going to finish at the rim or going to play make for others. I really like that aspect to it, and I think he can bring a lot there. Probably less so of like breaking down a defense himself without an advantage already created for him. So, but also again, like in putting in the caveat of he's the seventh man, I think that I feel pretty well about that. That's probably all right for your seventh player. But I kind of agree with you where it's like he's not gonna like pop off the screen like Rob Dillingham was supposed to do in terms of
Yeah.
that. But attacking closeout, playing off the catch, I like that a lot in terms of playmaking and taking it off the bounce. So yeah.
I love it when and by all means, we can disagree on things. That's okay.
Yep.
I do love it when it's like, all right, this is what I'm seeing. And then somebody else is like, yeah, no, yeah, that's because it's just like, all right, I'm not crazy. Because
Yeah.
we live in the social media world, and I feel like quite a lot of fans when they saw Ayo getting traded here was like, this guy is going to be the franchise point guard. And it's like, well, he's not really a point guard. He's more
Yep.
of like a combo kind of tertiary guy. Like certainly he could be here for 6 years and be a starter, but like it does seem like he is going to be more of like a fit type of player, which that's fine. You need those guys. And
Yeah.
I think Dante has made a career off of being a fit player, and now you have Dante and another guy that's pretty like you said, better at like ball handling, a little better at like decision making, but pretty similar to Dante in terms of like, they make good decisions, they make good shots, they don't really create a lot of like oof moments where you kind of see them and it's like, yikes, that wasn't good. What do you think about like the defensive side though? Because I'll be honest, it was kind of interesting to see how many people compared him to Nikhil on defense, including Finch and Conley. Do you kind of see
Yeah.
that too?
Yeah, it's that one is fascinating to me. I think that projecting defense, especially like in a trade scape of like landscape of like, all right, he's coming here. What's he going to look like on that end of the floor? Is probably one of the most difficult things to do before you see it.
Mm-hmm.
And just measuring defense in general is tough. It was interesting because I was just looking up like, all right, like his build, right? Like what's his height, what's his wingspan, what's his weight, like kind of who does he look like? Nikhil was one of the ones that like he matches up most well with. The other one is actually Jalen Clark. And so that's also kind of interesting. And I think he's closer to Jalen Clark because I feel like that you picture Nikhil, you picture like a very wiry, kind of like more skinny guy, where Jalen Clark, you
Yeah.
picture more of like a tank. I think he's closer to being that like sturdy tank in terms of that. The defense, it's like you're not going to stick him on the other team's best player or maybe even the other team's best player, but I do think he can be a very good like connective defensive piece. Positive on that end of the floor, but not going to be like world changing like Jaden or Rudy, which maybe is unfair to compare him to those two guys. But yeah, he's not going to be like world changing, and you're not going to stick him on like a primary scorer on the other team. But I do think that he can be a plus on that end of the floor. So.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar. Like I do think, there's some things like I want to say like opponents shoot like 32% from three against him or sub 30% from three against him. Like I think that's like, okay, well, he contests shots. Like even on the Bulls that like that statistic is something that, like, all right, well, he does contest stuff. I think like his steal percentage and block percentages were both pretty low, but also like he doesn't really allow people to finish at the rim very well. So like, okay, he probably doesn't gamble a ton, but he seems solid. The other thing that, like, when I was watching kind of like clips and tape on him, was like, he's really good at that Nikhil thing where he just shrinks his body to get really small between like a pick and the ball handler, and then somehow still like drag his leg out there to get back in front, which is like, no one on this team can do that right now. So I do think he'll have value that way. But I do agree with you. Like, he's not going to be a Jaden caliber. He might not even be a Clark caliber defender, but like, again, when you're looking at the guy that he is stepping into that role for, like, you're going from 18 minutes a night of Mike Conley, who got cooked on defense, but at least got cooked and funneled him to Rudy. Now you're going to a guy that is, at least on paper, significantly better, which, yeah, I don't know. I thought it was great. Farah asked about Julian Phillips, who I've heard rumors Julian Phillips' cousin was just like going through different Wolves live streams last night, checking in and saying hi to people. So shout out to that guy's family. What are your thoughts on Julian Phillips? Do you think he's going to get any run this season?
He probably won't get any run this season. I'm curious to see if they'll ever send him to Iowa at all. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm some Julian Phillips like savant, like I know every little thing about him. But it's like, it's intriguing, 22-year-old kid, like still probably, a few years away from like figuring it out. And again, maybe he just needed a change of scenery. Like I like the flyer, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I'm not gonna, bank on him ever becoming a rotation player or anything like that. But it's definitely an interesting piece to this, where it's like, it's not nothing,
Yeah. I feel like in Lenny, you kind of knew what you had, and you're just changing Lenny, a guy that you knew what you had that was never going to play on this team. You're exchanging that for a completely different flyer that you can at least get in the gym, kick the tires, see how he does in like the 5-on-5 drills. And like, I don't know, he was a McDonald's All-American 4 years ago. Like, something was there at some point that made people think very highly of him. Like a 6'6" guy with a 7-foot wingspan also is always fun. But yeah, I mean, from my little bit of a deep dive in him, like, he just hasn't been able to hit a shot his entire career in the pros. And it seems like theoretically he should be really good on defense, but he's kind of struggled quite a bit, which you're playing on the Bulls. How much can you like really value like garbage time wing defense for the Bulls? Like, probably nothing. But yeah, I agree. I'd much rather have a flyer on a new guy than just kind of keep the same old here.
Right.
That being said, I do, before we get out of here, just any last thoughts on Rob and Lenny as they kind of move on to Chicago and hopefully get some more playing time?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm glad that they're both getting a change of scenery, just because like it was just tough scenes around here, in terms of trying to crack their way into the rotation. Obviously, we didn't see enough from either of them for them to really warrant that or really demand that. I do feel a little bit bad for Rob that he's going to the Bulls, who also have about 18 million guards that they have to try to give minutes to. I would have much appreciated if he would have found his way to a place where he could really get some run. And I think we talked about Rob the last couple of times for sure. Of just like, I think he just needs to go to a place where he can play through mistakes. Like, and I don't think that's necessarily a new take, and I'm not world bending with that one, but he just does. Like, it's unfortunate how it kind of panned out here, and wish him all the best. In terms of that. And kind of the same thing with Leonard Miller, where it's like, oh, here you go. Here's three bigs that are in front of you that all need to play 30+ minutes, that all are very, very good. So again, just kind of tough to pick your way through no matter what, in both ends. And that speaks to the Wolves' talent, is maybe that's not what you want to hear tonight, especially after they lost to the Pelicans. But it does speak to the Wolves' talent. They do have a lot of it. So
They do.
kind of both ways of like, I'm glad that they're both getting a chance somewhere new to kind of have a fresh start and just be able to be in maybe a less pressure filled environment of like we have to try to win every single game. So
Well, and when your starting lineup and your immediate bench guys put you in positions where against the Pelicans you're playing to the very wire, it's really hard to get minutes for those guys, to your point.
right.
Like they're not going to put Robin in a situation where it's a tie game going into the fourth quarter against the Pelicans. Like they need to win this game.
Yep.
Unfortunately, this season they still ended up losing quite a few of them. But I'm with you. I hope he gets a chance in Chicago. I hope he actually gets minutes. He was a pleasure to like cover his media. Super nice kid. Always like a smile on his face. Was always willing to be like vulnerable and open about like his situation, which I think is admirable because like a lot of people when things are kind of going shitty, they just regress and don't talk about it, and I always appreciated that. And I mean, in Lenny, it's going to be weird vibes. Everyone on the team said he was the funniest guy on the team, so they need a new class clown, I think. But I mean, Lenny's one of those guys too, like G League Ignite, like I think he was on the Ignite or the other team, but like ton of talent. He just, what do you do? Rudy, Nas, and Julius, and before Julius, Cat are going to play a lot of minutes. I mean, it just, like you said, it sucks when you have a team that's really good and you're a young player.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Can't agree more with that. So
well, Benny, let's call it here. Anything, I know you mentioned you have an IO piece coming out tomorrow over on Canis. Anything else you're working on? Where can people find you? The floor is yours, sir.
Oh man, that's always the pressure-filled statement I feel like you make it. I'm like, oh, I gotta come up with something.
I build it up to see who will crack.
Right. No, it's a good idea, honestly. Yeah, you can really tell someone's metal based on that. But yeah, that's kind of the biggest thing. Big deep dive on Io tomorrow. Spoiler, I am very high on that fit. I think it's awesome. I think it's going to be great. Hopefully will help with some of the stuff that Rudy was talking about tonight. But it seems like he does break it every night. So if you already read Andrew's piece, but you're like, I haven't gotten enough Ayo Dosunmu content in my life, check that out tomorrow. I think I'm feeling good about how it turned out. I feel like I got some good stuff down on paper or on a document. So that's what I would say. Otherwise, yeah, find me on Twitter and on Blue Sky, Benny _. There's two of them. Hughes. Check me out there. Usually like to tweet a little bit, try to be a little bit funny, a little bit sarcastic, but not too much so that people see this. But yeah, also just tweeting about the Wolves and kind of some fun stuff about that. So yeah, and the links, of course. And the links. It's just off season right now.
And the links. We do have crossover on this podcast and the links.
Oh
yeah. Benny, thank you so much for coming on. Especially thanks for coming on on like 3 hours notice. I always appreciate it when I have a guest that has to drop out for something and I have other guests that are willing to come on no notice. So thank you.
Absolutely. Anytime, my friend.
And for anyone that is still in here, I do plan on going live again tomorrow with Austin McGee. He writes for the Bulls Beat blog, as well as Pippin Ain't Easy, I think is the blog site that he also writes for, which like love that. He's going to come on, just kind of talk Io for 40 minutes or so, just what he meant to the Bulls, what he kind of meant to the city, what we can expect from him. And we'll probably talk Rob too, but we'll be going live with that about 6 p.m. Central tomorrow. If you came into this live stream late, as soon as I hit end stream, it gets published over on YouTube and X. If you can't wait until tomorrow to listen to the entire thing, feel free to jump on over there. If you're on YouTube, might as well subscribe already, just hint. And if you want to listen to this in an audio version, it does come out the following day. So that would be the 7th at 7 a.m. We will be back after the Clippers game as well. I know there is a football game. I believe that's what it's called, Benny, a football game that's going on there as well.
Like kind of, but I don't know. It's like a preamble to the Bad Bunny concert is what I've heard.
Yeah, Bad Bunny I've heard of. This football I'm not not too aware of. But if you want to listen to something before the Bad Bunny concert, me and my boss over at Zone coverage, zone coverage. Time Shire will be on breaking down that Clippers game. So until then, everyone stay safe, stay warm, don't make any bad decisions, and we'll talk to you later.